from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
A pleasant evening and a very warm welcome to the National News of Rupavahini ChannelEye. I'm Dalanjali Anand. Joining me is Charita Minipurarachi. And these are the top stories which have made headlines for tonight. Rainy conditions to persist across the country. 3 houses damaged from lightning. 2 unexpected deaths from Kapithigolava wild elephant incident. 15 suspects arrested over the death of a police sergeant. Increased fuel quota for passenger transport 3-wheelers to enforce in near future. Registering of 3-wheelers commences from Western Province. Restrictions on foreign travels of parliamentarians during the budget debating period. Another general election in Israel.
Now, and starting off with the top local story, the Met Department says that the showery conditions are expected to continue further due to a low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. 2 sluice gates of Victoria Reservoir have been opened today after a long-time gap due to the prevailing heavy showery conditions. Accordingly, a water capacity of 160 cubic meters per second is being released to the Mahavali River at present. Meanwhile, 2 sluice gates of the Kukuleganga automatically opened this morning between 9:30 am and 10 am. Heavy showeries are persisting in the western slopes of several highlands since last night. Accordingly, a thick fog condition is prevailing surrounding the main roads in the area. Castlereagh and Mount Sakale reservoirs are currently at spill level. Accordingly, the power generation related to Canyon Lakshapana, Div Lakshapana, Polpitia and Vimalasurendra plants are currently at full capacity. 3 houses in Kithul Alla in Alla area have been struck by lightning yesterday. Reports have indicated that 1 person has been hospitalized for burnt injuries. A 70-year-old person had died after a side wall of a house had collapsed upon the 2 houses in Hamparava area in Bandarabilla yesterday due to heavy showers. Another injured person has been admitted to the Diathalava Base Hospital for treatments. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organization has issued warnings for potential landslides. The Met Department had indicated that wind speed in the sea areas may increase up to 50 km per hour at times of coast extending from Puttalam to Trincomalee, Kankasanthre and Mullathil. A police sergeant has died after being assaulted during a heated situation in Rambakapuava in Kapithigolava area.
The incident occurred when the police officers were responding to a report on the death of a person caused by a wild elephant attack. The police have indicated that 15 persons, including a Buddhist monk, have been taken into custody over the assault and death of the police officer. A tense situation erupted in the Padavia Road around Kapithigolava last night. A 48-year-old person had died from a wild elephant attack near a paddy field in Rambakapuava area last evening. Outraged over the incident, the villagers had blocked the Padavia Road, disrupting the vehicular movement along the road. Police officers, including the officer in charge of the Kapithigolava police, reached the protest site following the report on the incident. A tense situation then ensued as a group of protesters attempted to chase away the police officers from the site. After protesting, villagers attempted to grab hold of a service revolver of a police officer. The police officer in charge had fired a shot in the air. The police officers also then fired shots in the air to take the situation under control. However, a police sergeant sustained critical injuries after attempting to protect the officer in charge of the Kapithigolava police. The police officer was then transferred from the Kapithigolava hospital to the Anuradhapura hospital for treatments. However, the officer succumbed to his injuries after being admitted to the Medavachia hospital. The 54-year-old sergeant attached to the Kapithigolava police was a resident of Variapula area. Reports have indicated that nearly 150 residents took part in the protest. The person died from the wild elephant attack has been identified as a father of 2 children who was living alone in his house. He had been attacked by the elephant while he was returning to his residence. Director General of Wildlife Conservation Department Chandana Surya Bandara said that the measures undertaken to prevent wild elephant attacks in villages will be carried forward amidst difficulties.
Restrictions have been imposed on foreign travels of ministers, state ministers and government MPs on the sitting days of Parliament and during the budget debate. The relevant decision was made during a cabinet meeting held yesterday. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the Prime Minister's proposal to restrict government MPs, including ministers, from travelling abroad during sitting days of Parliament and during the budget debate, except in case of urgent medical needs or urgent work of the government. Cabinet approval has been granted for the budget debate program related to the financial year 2023. Accordingly, the second reading of the appropriation bill will be on the November 14th and the budget committee stage debate and budget voting will be on December 8th. The Cabinet approval was granted for the proposal presented by the President to publish the bill for the revision of approved borrowing limit for the year 2022 in the Government Gazette and thereafter present the same in Parliament for approval. The Cabinet approved the relevant bill on October 17th. A cabinet decision has been made to hand over the responsibility of studying the methodology of restructuring the Sri Lankan Airlines Company Limited and making recommendations to the Cabinet of Ministers to state-owned enterprise restructuring unit established under the Ministry of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies. It has been recognized that Sri Lankan Airlines Company Limited is required to be restructured by handling over a considerable amount of shares and the management to the investors selected through a transparent procurement process. A meeting was held yesterday to inform the President about the private member proposals presented by parliamentarian Premnath C. Dolavatta.
The meeting was held at the Presidential Secretariat. The proposal will strengthen President Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy of increasing the opportunities for the youth community in decision-making process of the country. During the meeting, MP Dolavatta said that his private member's proposal, which has been submitted as a bill to amend the 262nd Local Government Elections Ordinance, adds constitutional value to the President's policy of providing more opportunities to the youth in elections to strengthen the democratic representation system. The MP also said that the draft includes the necessary provisions to confirm the youth representation of at least 25% in the first and second nomination lists of the local government elections.
26 years have passed since the demise of Sri Lanka's first executive president, late J.R. Jayawardena. He is considered as a diplomatic politician who strengthened the nation's economic foundation through the introduction of the market economy to Sri Lanka. J.R. Jayawardena was elected to the UNP leadership after the passing away of then leader late Dudley Senanayake. The party, under the leadership of J.R. Jayawardena, recorded a landslide victory in the general election of 1977. Following the accession to premiership, he then introduced to the Sri Lanka Democratic Socialist Republic Constitution in place of the existing Republic Constitution. Accordingly, he was sworn in as the first executive president of Sri Lanka on February 4, 1978. It was in response to requests made by the late President Jayawardena that Japan extended glorious contributions to Sri Lanka, including the Sri Jayawardena Hospital, the National Youth Services Council and the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. It was also the President J.R. Jayawardena who had introduced the concept of open economy to the country. Gigantic development processes of the caliber of Integrated Mahavali Development Scheme, the Free Trade Zone project as well as the Colombo Plan were implemented in the island during the tenure of late President. The late President J.R. Jayawardena bid adieu to the national 26 years back on the government of November 1, 1966. Sri Lanka would have been a developed country had late visionary leader of J.R. Jayawardena been the leader of the country at his young age, and it is none other than Ranil Wickremesinghe who could evaluate the country at such a level, said the Kotte Vihara Registrar and Chief Sanganayaka of Japan, Venerable Palpula Vipasithera. The Venerable Thera added that late President J.R. Jayawardena's blood relative Ranil Wickremesinghe can build up the country, adding that they have earned nothing from politics but dedicated their own property for the benefit of the public. The Venerable Thera has also reiterated that due to the failure of the identity of correct leadership in the past, the country has also had to face a crisis today. And the Venerable Palpula Vipasithera made these observations while delivering a sermon and the almsgiving for the Venerable Mahasangha at the 26th death anniversary commemoration of Sri Lanka's first executive president, late J.R. Jayawardena, and the J.R. Jayawardena Centre in Colombo 7 this morning. The president too participated to offer alms to the Mahasangha. And meanwhile, the registering of passenger transport three-wheelers in Western Province commenced today. Accordingly, the increased fuel quota up to 10 litres have been facilitated for the registered three-wheelers.
Many requests and demands were presented to increase the fuel quota allocated for passenger transport three-wheelers. Accordingly, following discussions with the three-wheeler associations, the President instructed to increase the relevant quota up to 10 litres. However, a methodology to identify passenger transport three-wheelers was yet to be introduced. Accordingly, a decision was made to register the passenger transport three-wheelers under the present registering process. This process was commenced from a Western province, and the relevant taxi operators can access www.wptaxi.lk and register to obtain the increased fuel quota. As the first phase, the registration of passenger transport three-wheelers in the Western province will be carried out until November 6th. Accordingly, 10 litres of fuel per week will be issued to all three-wheeler passenger vehicles in the Western province from November 6th. The registration of passenger transport three-wheelers in the other provinces is expected to commence after 6th of November.
The public expresses their concerns over the failure to reduce the fuel price rates according to the fuel price formula. The government decided to revise the fuel price rates on the 1st and the 15th of each month as per the fuel price formula. However, there is no fuel price revision today. Reports have indicated that the fuel prices in the world market have slightly declined. The calculations carried out under the fuel price formula in Sri Lanka considers world fuel prices. However, there was no price revision, even though various views were shared over a possible price revision this month. Also, reports have indicated that the government is yet to reach a decision in this regard.
Now, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says all have to accept that the cost of living has escalated to an unbearable level following the depreciation of the rupee. The Prime Minister made these remarks while speaking at the 77th anniversary of the All Ceylon Harbour and Dock Labour Association. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena is the chairman of the Labour Association, and its General Secretary Ajit Damika was re-elected at the post during this occasion. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said that the maximum effort has been extended to revive the economy in the difficult period. He said that the economic constraints will be eased in the next few months. He added that the entire nation will have to put in an effort to overcome the present international debt trap. Therefore, he pointed out that all employees in both state and private sectors have a responsibility to support in this regard. Parliamentarian Yadamini Gunawardena was also present at the occasion.
The Department of Census and Statistics says that the Colombo Consumer Price Index has declined after 17 months. Its latest report has indicated that the price reduction in certain food commodities have contributed to the decline in the inflation. Colombo Consumer Price Index is considered as a key index which determines the inflation rate of the country. The index is prepared utilizing various consumer groups residing in Colombo city. Accordingly, the Colombo Consumer Price Index has declined by 0.35% in this past month. The Department of Census and Statistics has further indicated that the inflation of the country has also declined compared to the previous months of September. Sri Lanka's inflation, as measured by the change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index, declined to 66% in October from 69 to 2% in September. For the month of October, 1-to-1 year basis, contribution to inflation by food commodities was 28.09% and the contribution of non-food items was 37.85%.
A momently deviate from local news, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Mobi district in western Gujarat state, where a bridge collapsed, killed 135 people in one of India's worst accidents in years. The 140-year-old bridge over the Machu River gave way yesterday, days after it reopened following repairs. Search and rescue operations in the river resumed today. 9 people, including employees of a firm contracted to maintain the bridge, have been arrested. Authorities have promised a full investigation after questions were raised about whether safety checks were carried out before the bridge was reopened. The firm in question has been accused of multiple lapses, including its alleged failure to get a fitness certificate from the municipality. The 230-meter bridge was built in the 1870s during British rule. The bridge was a major local tourist attraction, touted by the state's tourism website as an artistic and technological marvel, and reopened only last week after being shut for months for repairs. Eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos as people plunged into the waters below. The others clung onto the wreckage, waiting for rescue teams to save them. Some tried to swim to the banks of the river and managed to survive, but many others were swept away by the fast-moving water. At least 170 people have been rescued so far. Gujarat, the home state of Prime Minister Modi, has announced a day of mourning tomorrow. The tragedy has devastated the people of Mobi. a little town known for its thriving premium ceramic industry.
South Korean police have said crowd control measures at the scene of a deadly Halloween crash in the capital Seoul were inadequate. The department promised, though, the new safety measures is preventive such a tragedy from happening again. Mounting evidence, experts, a series of official apologies point to glaring features. Local officials and police were not prepared for the crowds that have gathered and struggled to manage escalating crowds. National Police Commissioner General Yong Hee-kyon told reporters that he felt limited responsibility about public safety and over the incident that killed at least 156 people. The crash, which took place in Seoul's Itaewon district, has the deadliest such disaster in South Korea and happened after an estimated 100,000 people, many in their teens and 20s and dressed in costumes, flocked to the area's bars, restaurants and clubs to celebrate Halloween. But neither police nor local authorities were actively managing the crowd, as the celebration was not an official event with a designated organizer. South Korea is typically strong on crowd control, with the protest rallies often so heavily policed that officers can outnumber the participants. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol had declared a week-long period of national mourning, paid respect to the victims of the disaster at a makeshift memorial. At the memorial site located near the narrow alleyway and the disaster happened, Yoon placed a flower and bouquet earlier in the day. He said the country needs to urgently improve its system for managing large crowds. And meanwhile, Manusha Nanayakkar, the minister, says the main objective of the present government is to bring the change required to direct the nation towards a positive and a progressive path and not to operate based on the political agendas.
The minister made these remarks during a media briefing held at the Government Information Department today. Minister Manusha Nanayakkar said that they are not exercising politics but have taken an effort to bring a system change. He said that measures have been taken to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor through certain tax policy revisions and to abolish the incentive and subsidy schemes of the government. He also said that these measures will allow those who are deprived of financial assistance to lead a normal life. He said that the state institutions and enforcement agencies will be empowered through the independent commission system. He said that they have been able to limit the executive powers vested with the president through the 21st Amendment.
Minister Harin Fernando alleges that certain groups in the opposition are in the attempt to devastate the rebuilt country through the disputes based on various protests and share negative ideologies among the society. He said that if the country is to be left in a devastated state through such negative ideologies, then opposition leader Sajid Premadasa should accept its responsibility. He made these remarks during a media briefing held today. Minister Harin Fernando requested the public not to be deceived from the political stunts carried out by the certain entities. He added that organizing such protest may be leading to a decline in tourist inflow, which is crucial to the country at present. He said that if the tourist inflow of the country declined due to negative publicity, then the opposition leader Sajid Premadasa should take up its responsibility. Stay tuned for international news after this break. Welcome back with international news, and it's an update from Israel, and Israelis are heading to the ballot box for an unprecedented fifth time in 4 years today, as Israel holds yet another national election aimed at ending the country's ongoing political deadlock. For the first time in 13 years, former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not running to the incumbent. He is hoping to return to the power as head of the hard-right coalition when centralist caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid is hoping the mantle of the acting premiership will keep him in place. And Israel's longest severe Prime Minister Netanyahu is on trial of corruption charges which he denies. His rights Liquid party is still expected to finish as the largest in parliament. Final opinion polls published last week, however, showed him still short of 61 seats needed for a majority in 120-seat nest, upon the prospect of week of coalition wrangling and possibility of the new elections.
And on our sports update, it's from the international cricket arena. Now, Sri Lanka was able to secure a 6-wicket victory against Afghanistan at the Super 12 round match at the ICC T20 Cricket World Cup Series. And at the moment, Sri Lanka is holding the 4th position in the Group 1 points table.
The match was played in Brisbane. Winning the toss, Afghanistan opted to field first. Afghanistan was able to secure 144 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their stipulated 20 overs. Wanindu Hasaranga picked up 3 wickets of 13 runs, and while Elahi Kumar picked up 2 wickets.
Bowl him straight through, right after that power play. Impressively so.
Having said that, this is going to go straight to deep mid-wicket.
Gone.
Tossed up, hit down the ground, mid-off, thinks he's in play, he is in play.
Was not put down. Odia, they get a wicket.
Toe end of the bat, skipper again, Shanikar this time takes the catch. Down he comes, gone. Spinner to spinner, Hasaranga wins that battle. Down the pitch and gone, stumping, brilliant from Hasaranga.
Now very pleasant with the crowd.
Kusal Mendes and Pathumni Shankar opened the Sri Lankan innings to chase the target of 144.
Yeah! Oh, he got him. That is a beauty. And it's Pathum Nissan.
Top edge.
Displaying an extravagant batting performance, Sri Lanka's Dhananjay De Silva scored his 3rd half-century in T20 career. He was not out for 66 with 6 boundaries and 2 sixes. Accordingly, Sri Lanka chased down the target and scored 148 runs for the loss of 4 wickets in 18th over.
And he's played beautifully. Over extra cover, we've seen that on a number of occasions and absolutely fitting. But Dhananjaya finishes it in style.
We lost last 2 games against Australia and New Zealand. They are good sides, and so we have to play our best this game and next game. So I'm really happy where the boys are playing. I saw last game also, last night also playing the same venue. I saw Zampa bowl really well, so I try to bowl stumps and I try to vary my pace. So I think that's worked very well for me. In Perth, I went some runs, so that we get like very good for batsmen. So I went some runs that game, but I know how I come back strong. So I think I did better.
Now, meanwhile, New Zealand suffered a defeat by 20 runs in their match against England at the ICC T20 World Cup Series. However, New Zealand still leads the points table of the Group 1 section.
The match was played in Brisbane. Batting first, England scored 179 runs for their innings for the loss of 6 wickets. Captain Jos Buttler scored 73 runs while Alex Hall scored 52. New Zealand's Loic Ferguson picked up 2 wickets. Chasing a target of 180, New Zealand was restricted to a score of 159 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. Glenn Phillips scored 62 runs while captain Kane Williamson scored 40. Chris Vogels and Sam Curran picked up 2 wickets each for England.
And that's all the news we have for tonight. Do join us tomorrow at 8:50 p.m. for the very latest on Channel Eye. I'm Dilanjali, together with Charita, signing off. Good night.
Good night.